On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by First Fidelity Bank, we preview the Cotton Bowl with ESPN's Greg McElroy. Greg will be on the call for the OU Florida matchup with Joe Tessitore, so we break down the game from every angle. In the National College Football Roundup, we bring you the latest news in college football. We give you our winners and losers of the weekend and wet the beak with the Cheez-It Bowl between Oklahoma State and Miami. To finish up, the Thunder won their first game, and none of us really know how to feel. So we talk about it in Keeping It Local. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right. Our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's beautiful Monday, December 28th. And you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by First Fidelity Bank. First Fidelity Bank is a full-service financial institution based in Oklahoma with tailored solutions for all your personal and business needs. Checking accounts, saving accounts, home loans, and much more. They do it all. Whether it's online banking from your computer or mobile banking from your phone, everything is stress-free with FFB. Making mobile deposits, paying bills online, and moving money to different accounts could not be easier. First Fidelity Bank also provides free ATMs worldwide, making banking convenient wherever you are. They also give back to the community. First Fidelity Bank donates a total of more than $500,000 to local charities and educational foundations. Make your life easier and go bank at First Fidelity Bank. Visit ffb.com for more information. Now, recording this on Sunday night. Hope everyone had a great Christmas. Hope you guys all got the presents you wanted. And Teddy, I feel like these last 4 days have been much needed for you. I know it's been much needed for me, but the Cotton Bowl, it's here, man. It's basically here. It kind of snuck up on us.
I got to tell you, if there's one thing that we carry over from this season to years following is the quick turnaround after championship game to bowl game. I love it. Now, I know it's tough with graduation and all the different things that the kids have going on, but man, that month where you're just kind of sitting there spinning your wheels, I'm not a fan of that. I like to turn around, get it going. Not prepared this year, but I like that time frame. I like that little window, man. It's cool.
Yeah, Cotton Bowl coming up here on Wednesday, and we've got Greg McElroy on this episode. And I know what you're thinking, OU fans. I know what you're thinking. Greg McElroy, he hates OU. He hates OU. I don't want to listen to that. I'm telling you, that's the first thing I asked him. That's the first thing we asked him, and he addresses it. And guess what? He loves you guys. He loves you guys. So, yeah, we've got Greg. He'll be on the call with Joe Tessitore there for the Cotton Bowl. So a lot of fun talking to him about this game from all different kinds of angles. But Ted, let's get to some news, some updates for OU and Florida first. And that's brought to you by Will and Wiley Hard Seltzer. Guys, stop acting like you're too manly and just accept it. Hard seltzers are amazing. There's only one hard seltzer that we drink on this podcast, and that is Will and Wiley Hard Seltzer from Coop Ale Works. It's perfect for any occasion. We drink it by the pool, at the lake, and at the tailgate. It's made in Oklahoma, and it is absolutely delicious. Will and Wiley is customized for the Oklahoma lifestyle. Go find it right now in a store near you, and go follow them on social media at Will and Wiley. If you're drinking some because of us, tag us in your social media posts to let them know. Okay, so a lot of news since we did our last episode, right? First of all, Kyle Pitts has opted out for the Florida Gators. That is huge. That is a game-changing player. He is the best player at his position in all of college football. He also, in my opinion, is the worst matchup nightmare in all of college football. No team in the country has an answer for him. Oklahoma certainly didn't have an answer for him. So I'm not exactly heartbroken that he's not playing in this game, although I love watching the best players. But also for Oklahoma, shouldn't expect Austin Stogner to play in this football game from what I've been told. So neither team going to have their difference maker at tight end, Ted.
Yeah. And I think both of those guys, maybe not equally as important to their offenses, but I mean, numbers don't lie. Since Stogner's been out, our offense just has not clicked like it did before. and obviously we know what Pitts brings to Florida. So it is really interesting that neither one of those guys are going to play, and what exactly is that going to mean? We've seen quite a bit of Florida without Pitts, still pretty dynamic with all of their playmakers. And dude, they're still huge at wide receiver. I mean, they've got some massive guys. I mean, just looking at their list, I know the Kadarius Toney guy's 6'1", 193, but everyone else on that list, pretty much except for the Copeland kid, is 6'4" or taller. So it's not like you can just, at least they're not going to have a big guy out there with a size mismatch. Wrong. They're going to be all over the field. But it does help that Pitts is gone for sure.
Yeah, some other important stuff. TJ Pledger, Tanner Mordecai, both in the transfer portal, right? So I can't imagine we'd see them, right? Once you enter the portal, you don't play in the game, right? You're like gone, right?
I think, but why would you do that? What's the benefit of doing it now as opposed to after the bowl game? Like,
I don't know.
Would you get a bowl? You're probably going to not get a bowl gift. If you're TJ Pledger, I mean, there's a decent chance that you could have factored into the game some shape or form.
Right.
It just
Agreed.
doesn't make much sense to me. I mean, same thing with Tanner Mordecai. I mean, gosh, you're always a play away, but after watching the Morris kid in the Big 12 championship, who knows? But I don't know. I thought that was weird that they'd hit the portal at this time instead of, waiting a handful of days.
Yeah. So not ideal, right? Not having the guy that's been your backup quarterback all year long. You never know, right? One play away. Certainly not ideal. TJ Pledger was always the second back on the field. So we'll see if either of those factor in. And then another guy not going to play in this game for Oklahoma, Trey Brown, has decided to opt out and start preparing for the NFL draft. This is a guy that has a Senior Bowl invite. He's obviously going to go to the NFL Combine. I'm sure he'll run extremely well there. But Teddy, what do you think about him opting out? Because I listen, I understand it. The kid thinks it's the best thing for him and his family, right? He wants to be healthy for the Senior Bowl, wants to be healthy for the Combine. I get all of that. But it does seem when the other team has guys like Trevon Grimes and Kadarius Toney, like you could make some money against those guys. A lot of people see Kadarius Toney as like the fourth or fifth wide receiver in this class. So I don't know. I get why he's doing it, but it also seems like it may have been the better business decision. Now there's risk reward. I get it, but it may have been a better decision to play against those type of guys. But maybe I'm just not understanding it right.
Well, I guess it's the ultimate hedge, right? You could go play in the football game, play really well, and get some value out of that. Or you could go play in the game, get torched, and on a big spotlight game, and everyone throw you off their draft board. I am not a fan of it.
You're not a fan of opting out in general. That has been well established on this podcast.
I'm not. I think there's sure money is important, and making a business decision is important. Even though if you really want to make a business decision, take out an insurance policy. I mean, I'm sure Kyle Pitts has a massive insurance policy, which, by the way, your university can pay for your insurance policy now. So if you've actually got that much money on the line, you can back that up with an insurance policy that you can pay in the future. So if your university doesn't pay for it for you. But I mean, here's Trey Brown, and not that I think he'll run a super fast 40 like you talked about, probably show really well at the Combine, may do really well at the Senior Bowl. And he's a guy that could definitely fly up some draft boards. But I haven't seen anywhere that anyone's got him in like the top 3 rounds of any of the mock drafts. Now, those things aren't ironclad. They're not even close, but it is a pretty decent picture. It's not like his situation and Kyle Pitts are completely different. It's not even in the same
Yeah.
stratosphere.
Yeah, that's when I saw it. I was surprised, right? Because I thought Trey Brown had an opportunity to make himself some money in this game. You're right, because as we sit right here, he's probably a day 3 guy, right? With what he has put on tape. Now, if he goes to Mobile and crushes it at the Senior Bowl, if he, runs 4.3 at the combine, will some teams look at him differently? But you got to remember, even if you run really well, like, you are what your tape says you are. Now, you run that way, they may go back and reevaluate the tape, right? Like, that's how it works, but it just feels like a missed opportunity for him. We obviously wish him the best. Hope he plays extremely well at the Senior Bowl. Hope he crushes the combine. You want him to get drafted as high as he can, right? That's good for him, good for the program, everything like that. But I I think he could have made money in this game, and I think he's missing an opportunity. I do.
I just don't know how anyone, and I know people are
It's
fine
like
with this.
Creed's playing in the game, but Trey Brown is not. Like, how? What?
Well, I mean, I just don't understand how everyone can play a season, strive for the same goals, try and hit all of these different things, and then right at the end of the year, bail and opt out. And you know, I guess I don't understand that mindset. And I hear all these people talking about, well, I mean, it's a business decision. This bowl game doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. Since when do bowl games not mean anything? If they don't mean anything, then why the hell are we playing them? Like, what's the point? What games do matter? If a bowl game doesn't matter, does the Kansas game matter? Like, what are we talking about? How does a Cotton Bowl not matter against a Florida team who finished second in the SEC? How does that not matter? I guess I'll never understand what that means. This game doesn't matter. How? How does it not matter? It's just, I guess I just don't understand that mindset. It's
Yeah,
weird.
I'm with you. I think there's a lot to be gained for Oklahoma in this game. I think there's a lot to be gained for Florida, right? They've had a good year. They're trying to get to a certain level, right? And I think a lot of people view this game for Oklahoma as the first step to making a legitimate title run next year, where they can go to the college football playoff and win a game and play for it all. And that makes this game matter a whole lot to me. That's how I see it.
Absolutely. It matters. They always matter. And I'll tell you another thing is, you know, hopefully Trey Brown goes and plays 15 years in the NFL. Maybe he'll do that. But I think it's important, like, what type of legacy you leave at the university that you played, and who wants their lasting imprint, like the last impact you made on your team was to not play in the bowl game. I mean, like it or not, there's going to be a lot of people that remember that, and that's just kind of how things are. I mean, there's been a lot of guys here who have played in bowl games, which don't matter. No bowl games matter, apparently, that were way higher predicted draft picks than what Trey Brown's going to be. Namely, Adrian Peterson in the '07 Fiesta Bowl. Didn't
Yeah,
need to
but
play in that football
that's a
game.
little unfair because the like sitting out of bowl games wasn't a thing yet. You know what I mean?
That's
Like,
true.
this has been normalized now.
That's true. And so is the term opt out, which I hate. I hate that term.
Oh, it's bad. I can't wait. I'm very excited for that to go away next season. Very
I
excited.
I think it's here to stay, and
Ugh.
the term is given everyone cover to bail on stuff. Opt out.
Ugh. Okay, one more thing for this game. James Houston. I did not know who James Houston was, but he gave the Sooners some bulletin board material this week. Here is James Houston's quote. Oklahoma is a good matchup, but they're not on our level. They're not the SEC. They're not the Florida Gators. So we should put on a good show. Now, I love some good trash talking heading into a bowl game. I think it's good for the sport. I'm a fan of it. But I do wonder because I I was curious. I was like, okay, this guy's talking trash. Let me check my notes. Oh, backup linebacker with 36 tackles on the year, Teddy. What?
I what is he? So whenever he says they're not on our level, is he like is he talking about the entire football team? Because like defensively, we're more than on their level. Is he comparing defense? He's a defensive player. Is he just hanging on to what his offense has done? You're kind of
I
curious there.
I don't know. They just got torched in the SEC championship game. Now, albeit by an amazing offense from Alabama, but what the hell is this kid talking about?
I don't know. And uh, is something that's totally unique to the SEC, which I'll never understand. You know, they're not on our level. They're not the SEC. What does that even mean? Why? I've never seen a bigger group of coattail riders in my entire life than SEC football teams. SEC, like who? I guess I don't understand that. And maybe I can't imagine, but maybe if another conference, no, I just can't imagine another conference doing it. That doesn't happen. I can't even imagine a Big Ten chant happening or a Pac-12 chant happening or a Big 12 chant happening. It is the strangest phenomenon I think I've ever witnessed. They
Yeah, I just
loop
don't get it.
themselves all together.
I
It's
don't get it.
very strange.
I don't get it. It's like James Houston, first of all, love the trash talk, good, but you guys lost 3 games. What? Get on your
Right.
level. What? I I don't know. Okay, let's talk about our keys to the game before we let y'all hear this Greg McElroy interview. So, Ted, I'm going to start, and I've watched a lot of Florida over the last couple of days, and I do think that OU's defensive line can get after them, can get after that Florida offensive line. Their interior's okay. I think there's a weakness at the right tackle position. 56, I think his last name's like Delance, something like that. He's not very good. He's not very good. I have not been impressed with him. I think that Benito or Ronnie Perkins, whoever's playing on the edge over him, can have a big day. So OU's defensive line, they got to keep playing the way they've been playing. And it's so important because they got to make Kyle Trask uncomfortable in the pocket. They have to make him feel the pressure in his face, off the edge, because he will make mistakes, just like any quarterback will, right? He will make mistakes if he feels that pressure. And also, OU's defense, don't give up the big plays. Don't give up the big plays to Tony or Grimes. Make Florida put drives together. Make them put extended drives together. Don't give up the huge chunk plays, especially in the passing game. Make them execute play after play after play. See if they can be patient, because if you do that, Florida's done some of that this year, but they've been a really explosive play oriented offense. Make them snap it again. Make them snap it again. Tackle well, clearly, but make them snap it over and over. Don't give up the 60-yard play.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I'm curious to see how that unfolds because, you know, I think Purdy's a good quarterback and Ellinger's a good quarterback, but Kyle Trask, at least in this offense, is by far the best throwing threat that Oklahoma's faced this year by, I mean, a huge margin. So I'm fascinated to see how that whole dynamic plays out. Um, you know what this game reminds me of? It reminds me of 2017 OU Georgia, except OU this year is Georgia from that year, and Florida this year is Oklahoma from that year. Senior quarterback, number one offense in the country against, and don't have a very good defense at all against a good defense with a young quarterback from, I think was a freshman that year. So there's a lot of similarities there, and you could end up seeing the same type of football game. But I think you're exactly right. The same thing, Georgia, they got on their heels earlier in that football game, but settled in exactly what you're talking about. Make them put together long, sustained drives and, make them one dimensional, which with Florida, they can live being one dimensional. But whenever you do, everyone knows that the passing game is coming. You can really switch it up front and create some different things on Trask and get to the quarterback, get to the passer. And I don't care how many yards he's thrown for, how many touchdowns. When you put a quarterback under pressure, they're not nearly as effective.
Yeah, my next key is OU has to control the time of possession. Now, I disagree with some people that think that OU should get into a shootout with this Florida team. I do not think that would be beneficial for Oklahoma. In fact, if a game like that unfolds, I think OU would lose. I do. I think OU's best chance of winning this football game is mirroring what Texas A&M did to Florida, because A&M had the ball for nearly 35 minutes in that football game. They ran it extremely well with Spiller. Now, OU's offensive line going to have to play a lot better. I think Florida's got some talent on that defensive line, although that they haven't had, Zachary Carter and the Slayton kid. Like they haven't just been forces along the defensive line for him. But if OU can control the time of possession, run it efficiently, move the chains, be efficient on third down. That was the issue, right? Especially in the second half of the Big 12 championship game. OU was just awful converting thirds downs. So I think that's the style of game that would lead to an OU win. I don't think trying to play this game in the high 40s, low 50s would be advantageous. Now, Alex Grinch may kill someone also if that happens, but
Right.
I think this is a game where you want to limit Trask and that offense's possessions, and the way you do that is you keep your offense on the field. You put the sustained drives together. You dominate time of possession.
Yeah, no, I agree. The question is, are they going to be able to do that? Now, I know Florida's defense has struggled this year, but we have not clicked down the stretch, specifically the running game. And that's the key to our offense. If we can't get our running game going, it's going to make it nearly impossible for those sustained drives to occur. So we've got to be able to run the football better. If we want to control the clock, control the football game that way, which I agree is the best formula, it's all going to come down to that running game, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. And then my last one is take care of the football. It's always a key to the game, right? But especially when you got a Heisman Trophy finalist on the other team, you cannot give that guy extra possessions, right? You cannot give an offense that has that many explosive playmakers, even without Kyle Pitts, right? You mentioned it. They are huge at wide receiver. And then Kadarius Toney, I think, is one of the most explosive players in all of college football. I love watching that kid play. You can't give them extra possessions. I'm interested to see if Florida maybe runs it a little more in this football game. The Damian Pierce kid has kind of, had the bulk of the carries, but they got two other backs they like as well. I would be surprised if that happened, but you just can't give that group extra possessions, Ted. That would be a recipe for a thorough beatdown if OU turns the football over multiple times in this game.
Yeah. I would just add one more, and that is weather the storm, because there's a decent chance that when Florida comes out, like there's a couple of things you can't do in preparation. You can't mimic 6'4", 6'4", 6'4", 6'5" wide receivers across, right, and a quarterback of Kyle Trask caliber throwing it. So scout team wise, you just can't mimic that. So whenever you get out there, there could be a little bit of shock as to how efficient this offense runs, how big these guys are, how they can go over the top and make plays. So there may be a little bit of trying to weather that early storm. You may be down a couple of scores, maybe 3 scores at some point in the first half. Just got to keep trucking. Just got to keep playing, keep getting stops, and keep playing football and let your offense make their way back because they're surely going to. But if you lose a couple of battles early, you can't throw your hands up in the air and start trying to do someone else's job and trying to strain to do something that's not within your assignment, and it happens all the time. This corner's been getting beat as safety. I know I'm supposed to be in the middle of the field, but I'm going to lean to this corner a little bit, to try and help him out, try and do his job for him, and you're going to get burned doing some of that. So you got to be ready to weather the early storm from Florida because they're going to make plays. They're going to score points. You can't just kind of throw everything out that you've been preparing for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. All right, Ted, let's get to our Cotton Bowl preview with Greg McElroy. He will be the color analyst on the call this game. And OU fans, he loves you. He loves you. He told us. Here's that interview. It is our pleasure to be joined by the man that will be on the call for the Cotton Bowl, along with Joe Tessitore. You can also catch him on the first team on ESPNU radio on Sirius XM. Greg McElroy is in the house. Greg, how we doing, man?
Doing good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Now, Greg, before we actually talk about the matchup between OU and Florida, there are a lot of OU fans that listen to this podcast, and I've been talking to some people, told them we were going to have you on to preview the Cotton Bowl, and it seems like the first question that came up from every single one of them was, ask him why he hates OU so much.
Well, I think I hate OU because Baker made sideline, and we, unfortunately, being assigned that game, because it's not every broadcaster's dream to call Oklahoma, Kansas. We've called it a couple times, shockingly enough, and the fact that the game was so one-sided, it was quite literally the only thing to talk about. So they think that we had some personal vendetta against Oklahoma when in reality, Baker got caught on microphone and on sideline. And since there wasn't anything to document on the field, there became basically the center of the attention for the remainder of the broadcast. I also am not in charge of the production or anything along the lines of that. I'm actually quite fond of Oklahoma. I think they have an excellent team. I voted for Baker Mayfield to win the Heisman Trophy just a couple weeks later. That was the second time in 3 years I voted for Baker Mayfield to win the Heisman Trophy. So they are, I'm sure they have their own personal feelings, and they probably don't like me very much for picking them to lose by 4 touchdowns last year against LSU when and me calling them flawed all year. Well, in reality, it turned out to be pretty true. I also said when I called the TCU game at the beginning of this year, or I guess middle of the year, I said this team's about to play their best football. So I feel like I have a pretty good feel for Oklahoma, at least the last couple of years, and I'm a team that I've had to call a bunch and have really enjoyed getting to know their staff and a lot of their players as well.
Well, I think we've had plenty of guys on that call football games, and no matter how you do it, you're going to piss off one of the fan bases. That's typically how it rolls. There is no making everyone happy. But you have called a lot of OU games, and this squad is probably, different than most of the games that you've called, where I think maybe the defense is a strong point of this football team.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. My favorite Oklahoma team was the team that played in the Rose Bowl in 2017. That was my favorite one. And I remember saying, man, if that team can't win it all, man, it's going to be tough. It really is. It's going to be really tough because they were so good along the offensive line. They ran the ball so well. We know that Baker was amazing. They had such good personnel at wide receiver. And then defensively, I mean, they had some really good players defensively on that roster. Obviously Kenneth Murray, and they had, Okoronkwo as an edge player. I mean, they had some guys that could really get after you a little bit. So I was a little concerned after I saw that group and them coming up just a little bit short, obviously, in a game that they had every opportunity to win. I was like, man, I don't know. After that, I just wasn't sure if that style of attack and that much tempo would lend itself to being successful. Because if that team can't do it, I don't know if any team can do it. You know what I'm saying? And I have actually been very impressed with what they've tried to do on the defense side of the football. Now, early in the season this year, I was concerned because I felt like they were far too much risk reward. You know, they would just roll the dice on every single snap defensively in an effort to create pressure or to create disruption or, for lack of a better word, chaos. They would oftentimes put undersized corners and undersized nickel defenders on big receivers because they were just putting such an emphasis on trying to create pressure along the line of scrimmage. But I do think that's kind of it had some growing pains, but my goodness, it's really created a great group to watch defensively with their movement and the way they can layer pressures and the way they stunt and use games and the way they just create a lot of havoc along the offensive line. And then, you know, for the most part, because of how they can get after the passer, they don't have to cover as long, you know? So I think they've really found themselves on the defensive side now that the offense is being a little bit smarter with the football. And I think Rattler just has such a bright future. Has done such a great job over the course of this year, battling some adversity early, but now playing his best football of late. I'm just really encouraged with the trajectory. I'm just disappointed that they had to start a little slowly. The Kansas State game just plagues me. I mean, that's the game that like drives me crazy thinking back to it, because this is not a team that should ever give up leads. And of course they gave up a big one there. And if they don't lose that game, they're in the playoff. And I actually think this is the team that if they made the playoff, they could seriously make some noise. And it's just unfortunate that they had to have those growing pains in the first part of the season.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir there, Greg. Now, I do want to talk about the matchup in this game, because coming into this one, we just touched on it, but OU's defense is definitely the strength of this football team coming into it. And it is no secret that Florida's offense is the strength of that football team. When you see that matchup, Greg, with what you've been able to see on tape, of course, Kyle Trask, not the most athletic guy in the world, doesn't have the strongest arm, but seems to have complete understanding of the timing of that offense that Dan Mullen's running, and displays really good touch on a lot of throws. So do you think OU's defense will be able to disrupt Kyle Trask and, you know, make him make some mistakes?
Yeah, I think they can. I don't think Florida's offensive line is a group that is impenetrable. And I think if you look at what Oklahoma does, you know, along the defensive front with some of their movement, I think they can create some problems. And I think they get in quarterbacks' heads. And the next thing you know, the quarterback's seeing ghosts and he thinks he got to get it out fast. So he does. And he throws it when he shouldn't throw it. We saw Brock Purdy, that's a veteran guy, do it a few times, obviously in the Big 12 championship game, seeing some ghosts, trying to force some things, trying to make things happen when they weren't there to be made. So I do think this is something that will be something that Kyle Trask has probably been told last couple of weeks in preparation, or since they've gotten the matchup. They have to be really good along the line of scrimmage. And I do think, too, the one thing if I'm Oklahoma that I'm concerned about when going up against Florida, now that Pitts is out, you know, obviously if Pitts is playing, all right, we got problems. But with Pitts being out, the length that Florida has at wide receiver is going to be a difficult matchup for Oklahoma. And that's probably the thing that I'd be most concerned about if I were Alex Grinch or if I were Lincoln Riley, having those corners on islands, both of which, you know, 6 foot, 5'11", 5'10", depending on how they stack up. And then you look at Florida's wide receivers between Grimes and Shorter, we're talking about a legitimate 6'5" at both spots. And if Pitts were out there, obviously he's not. He's a legitimate 6'6". So their length is problematic for all teams, including those with 6'1", 6'2" corners like Alabama has. It didn't matter. Those guys still made a lot of plays against Alabama. So that's something to be concerned about. But I do think they can disrupt the passing game, and they can match up athletically with Kadarius Toney, who's their catch and run guy that has kind of evolved into a pretty decent, well-rounded receiver.
Now, talk to me a little bit about Trask, because I'll admit that coming into this year, I didn't think that Trask was going to be very good. I thought he was kind of just a guy. He's okay. He's not super athletic. He's not going to beat you with his legs. He's not one of the purest passers of the football. And I thought that, this is going to be a good football team coached by Dan Mullen, but probably going to be held back a little bit at the quarterback position. I was completely wrong. Trask has been fantastic. Is this something that you saw that he was going to have a breakout season, or has this kind of caught a lot of people off guard like it did me?
No, I expected to have a good year. I don't know if anyone expected them to win the Heisman Trophy or to be in the mix for the Heisman Trophy. I certainly didn't anticipate that. I got to be honest with you. Like, he reminds me a little bit of, if we're on an Oklahoma podcast, let's keep it in the family. Reminds me a little of Jason White. And Jason White was a very effective player, won the Heisman Trophy, obviously an all-time great at Oklahoma, but no NFL success. And I think Kyle Trask might be somewhat similar to that, where he's the product of a little bit of a system that is extremely quarterback friendly. His stats, to a certain extent, have been a little bit padded. If you look at the amount of touchdowns he has inside the 5-yard line, they're pretty remarkable. It's not a knock on him at all. He's got to run the plays that are called, and he's got to execute the throws that he's expected to execute, and he's done so beautifully. And I think Dan Mullen deserves an awful lot of credit for pouring it on like they have at times statistically in the passing categories. But I think he's done a great job too, especially when they haven't been able to consistently run the football. This has been a group too, really for the last couple of years, that has not run the ball really well. So sometimes they do have to get a little pass happy. But I think Kyle Trask is a solid player. As far as NFL prospects, as far as being super gifted, I don't know if I'd go as far as to say that he's a first-day pick or even a day 2 pick. He's probably a later round guy, and that's perfectly okay. But he's accurate, he's smart, and he knows his place within the offense. He knows how to make his receivers better by just giving them a chance at it. And he's got an excellent supporting cast and an offensive-minded coach that has, over the years, done as good a job as anybody in creating opportunities for quarterbacks and developing quarterbacks. So I think he's done a really nice job in year 2. And, like I said, though, I do think there is a little bit of the system that needs to be taken into account when looking at some of the productivity and the numbers he puts up.
Greg, you're one of the analysts that does a good job of watching the offensive lines for teams, probably because you're a quarterback, probably because you're paying attention to protection and blocking schemes and all those
probably
things.
Probably because I know where the bread is buttered. I know I don't want to get killed. You have to watch the offensive line, right? You better have a good understanding what those guys are doing.
Damn right, brother. Now, when you look at Florida's defensive front, right, Brenton Cox at that outside linebacker spot, to Darryl Slayton, big man there in the middle, Zachary Carter, I love how versatile he is along the defensive line for them. We've seen OU's offensive line struggle at times this year. They haven't found that consistency this season that we're used to seeing from a Bill Beanbo offensive line. So how do you kind of see that battle shaking out?
What's funny is it's a little bit, I guess, based on preseason expectations. First of all, everyone's offensive line stinks this year. So, let's not get, I think that outside of A&M, I'm not sure, and Bama's had a pretty good run this year along the offensive line. Ohio State's rounding into form, and so is Clemson. So, the playoff teams, all right, I'll give you some credit there, or the teams that are in the mix. But everyone's offensive line is not as good as they usually are. I think it's a product of COVID, and that is what it is. But that aside, I think that Florida's defensive line, relative to what we've come to expect Florida's defensive line to look like, they're almost unrecognizable. They used to have, for as long as I've been in this industry, they used to have 2 defensive ends every year that are NFL guys that can change the game in a snap. And it hasn't really been that way this year. Even when Florida was at their worst in the 2012s, 2013s, and they were really at rock bottom by their metric of success, they still had great defensive line and disruptors. And they don't really have that guy right now. And Brenton Cox is supposed to be that guy. Jeremiah Moon, people have been talking about him for a long time because of his length, but it just hasn't really happened this year. Brenton Cox is their best option to do it, but at this point, Slayton in the middle, they have a freshman that they're real excited about in Gervon Dexter that they're very excited about, but he hasn't necessarily put it all together. He's a young kid, but in time, they think he's got a chance to be a star. So I think this is a group that Oklahoma will be able to keep in front of them. And that's going to be obviously important. And with the running back situation and with Ramadre being back in the mix and all that stuff, obviously Oklahoma's a team that wants to be balanced offensively. And I think they can get movement at the point against Florida that they would not have gotten probably in years past with an offensive line playing the way Oklahoma's offensive line is playing right now. I think that group is, like I said, my favorite Oklahoma team ever. 2008 is probably my favorite Oklahoma team ever, but this one is probably third, the one that's playing right now. The second favorite ever is probably 2017, and that offensive line was a bunch of gangbusters. Those dudes were unbelievable. This group has fallen a long way from that, but I'm hoping that in time, and if they don't have the challenges of a pandemic in front of them in 2021 and beyond, it'll be a group that hopefully will play a little bit more consistent. And we just haven't seen it this year from them. But the good news is nobody has. Everyone's been a little up and down, and I think it's just the product of the environment.
One of the criticisms that Oklahoma has faced, locally as far as also nationally, and it's whenever they face teams, and they're typically SEC style teams that have really good size. And, typically in the Big 12, Oklahoma walks onto the field and by far have the best athletes on the field, and it's really not ever close. But whenever they go up against SEC teams, it's way more even. What have you seen from Oklahoma that justifies that criticism? I mean, the 17 team against Georgia, it was a great Georgia defense, and they scored a ton of points on them. But like when they played Alabama in 18 with Kyler Murray, even last year, Jalen Hurts trying to go against an LSU defense that had some good size and length on it. What is it about what Oklahoma does that they struggle against some of those styles of defense?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. I don't even know. And really, if you look at the Kyler Murray game, that was kind of an unusual game, because they really did play well in the second half. I just think the first half he got so far behind the eight ball, and it was just a challenging game. LSU last year, just totally unfair. That Oklahoma team was as flawed can be, and that LSU team was legit. So I mean, that was just a bad matchup. Where I've noticed the biggest thing, like when I go and I call games in the Big 12, I noticed that guys in the secondary, corners more specifically, are 5'10", and that's not usually what you see if you go to the SEC or if you go and watch Clemson. For whatever reason, let's use South Carolina as an example, a middle-of-the-road SEC team at the best this year, a bottom-of-the-barrel SEC team, and they have two corners, one 6'4" and one 6'2". J.C. Horn might be the best corner in America, their lead dog. So for whatever reason, it's the length at corner, and I don't know why that length seems to reside in the SEC or in the ACC a little bit more than it is in the Big 12. I think part of it is because a lot of those guys that are 6'2", and a lot of the Big 12 coming from the state of Texas, and we all know that the state of Texas is all about offense, and the vast majority of those head coaches in the state of Texas come with an offensive background. So those guys that are 6'2" tweeners are playing receiver, and they're not playing corner. You know what I'm saying? Or if you have a guy that's a fire breather off the edge that's 6'5", he might be playing wide receiver. And in other places in the country, they're going to be a developmental pass rusher. A guy that might be a tweener at 6'2", 6'4", 225, like Leonard Floyd. I remember a few years back from Georgia, he decided to play outside linebacker. Some teams were recruiting to play wide receiver, and he wanted to play defense and rush the passer because he saw how much money pass rushers make. So, I mean, I think that has a little bit to do with it. But I think Oklahoma's biggest problem is they've just recruited so much speed, and there has been a little bit of a negative recruit against the Big 12 player But that's starting to change a little bit. It just takes time. It's cyclical. And if you talk to not just coaches at Oklahoma, but coaches at Texas and other places, they're fed up with how the league is perceived. And I've done 4 Big 12 games this year, and in each and every one of those 4 Big 12 games, we tried to bring up the fact that the Big 12 this year actually statistically is the best league defensively in America. And I don't think people have necessarily taken to that just yet, but hopefully if they continue to pay attention long enough, and maybe they'll continue to listen a little bit more, then they'll acknowledge that there actually is some really good defense being played in the league. And it's a league that's really improved on that side of the football.
Greg, I know you've watched quite a bit of Spencer Rattler, a kid that's got all the talent in the world, right? Had some growing pains early this season, but really seems to have ironed some of those things out, right? Playing more efficiently, taking care of the football now. What have you seen from him lately? What's the difference now than what you saw from him early in the season?
You know, I think just understanding he doesn't have to be Superman is a big thing. You know, I think that's part of it. I think he's tried to make things happen. He pressed early. He's a young kid. You know, he's a freshman. I think it's easy to, and we honestly, as media members and as fans, like the Trevor Lawrence of the world have ruined it for everybody. Like you're going to have some growing pains. Not everybody's a ready-made superstar day one. And, you know, I think even to a certain extent, Oklahoma fans have struggled with that a little bit because they haven't had to develop a quarterback in as long as I can remember. I mean, because Baker got there and Baker was a star. You know, day one, Baker was a star. His first year, winning the starting quarterback job against Trevor Knight. He's the guy for 3 years. And you have Kyler. Then you have Jalen. And then I think it was weird, and we had unusual expectations for Spencer Rattler because of Lincoln Riley's pedigree at the position. And I think it was a little unfair. And I think Spencer Rattler probably had those expectations as well. And it's going to be easy. Well, easy is wrong. Probably not the right word to use. But, hey, I'm going to be able to go in and take the world by storm just like all the guys that came before me. And he tried to do too much as a result and got a little humbled. And he's been a completely different guy since the benching in the Texas game. He obviously did a great job in that game. And to think that they went into overtime with absolutely no momentum whatsoever and still were able to win that game. And then obviously what he's done down the stretch after the bye week. And then since TCU game on, they've obviously really established Marvin Mims, which has been huge. And he has just gotten more confident, more comfortable, and more decisive, and not trying to do too many things unnecessarily because the offense is built to succeed. And they've also simplified things too. I mean, some of their offensive stuff, I mean, they just get in 2 backs, put Mikey Henderson on the left, put Ramondre on the right. Let's cross them up. One time we'll hand it to Mikey. The next thing we'll hand it to Ramondre. Next thing we'll do play action pass. Next thing we'll do naked. I mean, they've really simplified things for him. And he's really played well within it. So I've already tweeted during the Big 12 championship game, I go, man, this dude's going to be hell on wheels for a while now because I think his best football is obviously in front of him. I think he's such a natural thrower, has great instincts, has really good athleticism. The one thing that I was wondering about with him was maturity. And I think he grew up right before our eyes with handling the adversity that Lincoln kind of put on his shoulders right there on the biggest regular season game of the year against Texas. So I've been really proud of him, and I'm really excited to see him in person again, to see what he was like against TCU. That's when we saw him for the first time in person this year, to see him now just down the road in Arlington, and to see just how much he's improved from there to then in person. I'm really looking forward to having that opportunity.
You know, a lot of times whenever people are looking at maybe a bowl game or just, I guess, any big game in general, a way to oversimplify it is to say who's got the best coach quarterback combination. So whenever you look at this game, if you were to take it at that approach, which squad do you think has the best coach quarterback combination? Because they're both pretty daggum good.
Yeah, I don't know if you can really pick one or the other. in a bowl game, I always lean towards the senior, just because it's their last go round. So usually, like when I'm trying to pick games or evaluate games, I always say, well, okay, well, who's making it their final ride, right? Because they're going to be just a little bit more motivated. A good example, I think he's not a senior, but everyone knows, I think, Zach Wilson for BYU is playing his final football game. Well, he rode out pretty good the other night. So like those are usually things that I try to put in to try to assess like what kind of performance we're going to get from somebody. But it's COVID, man. Like everyone can come back and it doesn't even count. So like, how do you even assess that? It doesn't even really matter, I guess, to a certain extent. But I think both. If you were to ask Dan Mullen, would you trade Kyle Trask for Spencer Rattler? He'd say absolutely not. And if you were to ask Lincoln Riley, would you trade Spencer Rattler for Kyle Trask? I bet you he'd say absolutely not. I think both guys have a really good fit for what their coach wants them to be. And that's, I think, not just a reflection on the players. That's a reflection on the coaches and how they've been able to construct an offense that really suits and brings out the best in the abilities of their quarterbacks. And that's, I think, ultimately what you're tasked with, because a lot of coaches will say, hey, man, I don't care if you're a square peg. We're going to put you in this round hole and we're going to figure it out. And neither one of these two coaches are that way. Dan Mullen is completely willing to go with a run-heavy style of approach with a quarterback that's mobile. And he's also more than willing to drop back and throw it more than anybody, regardless of down and distance and where they're out on the field. Lincoln Riley has proven to have guys that are really mobile and maybe guys that are more wanting to operate from within the pocket. He can do it both ways. And we've seen it this year go from a veteran who'd played 1 million snaps last year with Jalen Hurts to a redshirt freshman this year. And it's pretty amazing just how he's been able to construct that offense to make Spencer Rattler comfortable. So I don't know. I hate to be long-winded and not really answer your question, Teddy. But I do think, it's one of those where there's not really a right answer. I think both coaches have a great rapport with their quarterback. And as a former quarterback, it's been an awful lot of fun to watch.
Who would you rather have at quarterback?
I'd rather have Rattler just long term. But I think Rattler's got a ceiling that's as high as anybody. I mean, I'm not just saying that because I'm on OU podcast. I really believe that. I think that kid's going to be a top 2 or 3 quarterback in the nation next year. And I think
on
he's
who
just
stays and goes, he may be the favorite when the season starts.
Well, I kind of said the same thing. Like my favorite quarterback coming back next year is Keaton Slovis. Like at USC. Like I think that kid is so pure. I think he's really good. Such a good thrower, great instincts, like unbelievable presence in the pocket, like can move, does have a little bit of the turnover bug, which is a little inexcusable from time to time. But he's in the mix. Another guy that I love, depending on if he comes back or not, is Brock Purdy at Iowa State. I think he's excellent. Rattler's going to be in the mix, though. I mean, it just depends. I mean, does Mac Jones come back? Does Zach Wilson come back? Is there a surprise in there? A lot of people like De'Aaron King. But I'm telling you right now, with how he's finished the season and his upside, I mean, Spencer Rattler's in the mix. That's for sure when it comes to conversation. Like if you can have anybody next year, he's going to be in the conversation. I feel pretty strongly about that.
All right, Greg, Teddy and I will both be down there, man. So hopefully we get to see you if they don't have you just completely quarantined from all other human beings. I know it's been interesting.
I'll be in my bubble, my walking bubble boy costume or something. I'll look like a Michelin man walking through there. Cause if I get COVID this week, I'll be so disappointed. I'm so excited about this matchup. So I'm so excited about this game, and I know you guys are too, and I hope Oklahoma fans are excited too. It'd be a great way to finish what was a disappointing start to the season, but it would give you an awful lot of momentum heading into next year.
Well, hopefully we see you down there in Arlington, man. Appreciate the time.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me.
A lot of fun catching up with our man, Greg McElroy. Ted, see, he doesn't hate OU. I told you guys.
There may be some hate in there. He camouflaged it well, though. Okay.
He does a good job.
You could maybe read between the lines on some of those. Was there any, I have to go back and listen. Was there some passive aggressive in there a little bit, maybe?
Greg would never. Come on, man. He would never. No, Greg's a buddy of mine. Appreciate him coming on, and that was good. I thought that was good, Ted. All right, Ted, let's move on to Call Your Shot. That's brought to you by Rock and Roll Tequila. Rock and Roll Tequila is the ultra premium tequila that hits all the right notes. It's won all kinds of awards for its superior taste and smooth finish. To find a store that has it, visit rockandrolltequila.com or check out their Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. This stuff is fantastic. If you don't want to take my word for it, maybe you'll listen to this guy.
This is Coach Bob Stoops. When you're a college football coach, it's important to have an eye for talent. The same holds true when choosing your tequila. When I tried Rock and Roll, I liked it so much, I decided to become a partner in this Oklahoma-owned company. Crafted in the highlands of Jalisco, Mexico, the smooth taste of Rock and Roll's triple distilled platinum, our añejo, called Cristalino, and the incredible premium quality mango tequila are awesome. Our defiantly unique guitar-shaped bottles make it easy to find, and you'll love the ultra-premium quality and taste. No excuses. Make Rock and Roll your game day tequila. Tastefully rebellious, start the party with Rock and Roll.
And we asked you for your boldest predictions for the Cotton Bowl, and this one comes from @OU_Morgan. Now, this is in reference to something that he sent us on November 11th. Listen to this, Ted. This is what OU_Morgan said on November 11th. OU wins out, gains a 6th consecutive Big 12 championship, narrowly misses the playoff, and absolutely smashes an SEC team in a bowl game. Oh, and the defense finishes in the top 15 in total defense. So he's either a wizard or he's pretty good at predicting how OU's season was going to unfold from that point. But he hit us back up, and this is what he said, Ted. He said, as I said previously this year, we will smash an SEC team in a bowl game. OU 47, Florida 24. Defense gets 6 sacks, 1 fumble recovery, and an interception. Extra bold. Rattler goes off for 400-plus total yards. And then he signed it, the Wizard.
Nice.
He said, gonna use that until I'm proven wrong. LOL.
Wow. I like it.
There's a lot to digest there.
There is a lot to digest there. I think there's a good chance that we could have some success getting to the quarterback. I would think it's strange that a quarterback that hasn't turned it over all year pretty much would start now in bunches. That would be huge if we got turnovers against Florida. If we end up plus in the turnover margin against Florida, we have a really good chance to win this football game. It's not the prediction I would make. The way our offense has been playing, I've got a hard time, predicting that they put up 47 against anyone.
You're not seeing a 47-24 win in the cards for the Sooners in this one, are you? Because I certainly am not.
I'm not, but if those turnover predictions come true, well, then maybe so. But I think this is going to be a blow-for-blow type of football game. Oklahoma would be best served if it was played in the mid-30s or lower.
Yeah. If OU holds Florida to 24 points.
Win. Massive win.
That would be impressive as hell. And that entire staff and every player on that defense would be thrilled with that.
Right.
Because that offense legit. So we'll see. Another bold prediction from @OU_Morgan. We'll see how it works out for him. We'll see. All right, Ted, let's move on to the National College Football Roundup. That's brought to you by Insurica. Do you own a business? If you do, you need Insurica in your life. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica is able to customize programs by accessing the latest information from many insurance carriers. They compare and contrast coverage offerings and pricing in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. Insurica's clients become best-in-class businesses by working with Insurica's team of advisors to manage risk. Purchasing insurance is only one way to protect your business. Best-in-class businesses win by avoiding a loss in the first place. If your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and take back control of your total cost of risk. I'm an Insurica client, and you should be too. If your business wants to be best in class, connect with Insurica at insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com. Okay, we're just going to hit some of the news in college football here in the College Football Roundup. There's 4 finalists for the Heisman Trophy. They've been named Devontae Smith and Mac Jones from Alabama, Trevor Lawrence from Clemson, and Kyle Trask from Florida. Teddy, do you feel like there were any major snubs? I have gone on record. I'll say it again. If I had a vote, which I do not, I would vote for Trevor Lawrence simply because I think he's the best football player. And I think he played a big role in this season being played in the first place. I think he's fantastic. But these are 4 worthy guys, right?
Yeah, I think they're 4 worthy guys for sure. I think that Najee Harris should be on this list. I don't think there's any doubt. His numbers fully support being on this list. The impact he has on his football team shows that. If I had a vote, it's so hard because I don't think that Trevor Lawrence has had the best season. I think he's the best player on this list, but I don't know that he's had the best season. And the Heisman Trophy is not supposed to be a, career award, lifetime achievement award. It's supposed to be who was the best player this year. I agree with you. I think he's the best player. Did he have the best season? Gosh, I don't know. I would honestly say that I would not pick Mac Jones, but Devontae Smith, Kyle Trask, Trevor Lawrence, or Najee Harris, I'd be fine if any of those guys won it.
Yeah, I think of these 4, I could really see Devontae Smith winning it, right? Just because he's been fantastic for them, but I don't know how those Bama votes are going to get split. Like maybe they get split up and somehow Lawrence ends up winning, right? I don't know. I do think Trask took a hit losing that LSU game, even though he played well in the SEC championship, took a hit losing that game. So we'll see, but I'm not going to. I've said it before, but I don't think I've ever been less passionate about who wins the Heisman Trophy than this season. So
it's weird. I mean, typically
it's bizarre.
Typically, we know who's going to win the thing by like early or mid-November, right? And it's kind of like, oh, we know who's got it this year. I mean, part of the interesting thing here is we don't know who's going to win it, and there's 4 finalists. I mean, we haven't had that type of situation in a long time.
Yeah, it actually makes it kind of exciting, but then you're like, oh, it's going to be virtual. It's not going to be what it normally is. And it all just kind of sucks, and it makes you sad. And you're like, well, 2020.
Who's going to be running the Zoom meeting? Are they going to be able to mute Billy Sims' mic when he starts screaming "boomer" during the Zoom call for no reason?
They better not. They better not mute Billy Sims.
Boomer!
Don't even think about it. On a very, very sad note, a tragic situation in the Utah football program. Freshman running back Ty Jordan died at the age of 19. Police investigation says looks like an accidental gunshot situation. This was a kid that was the Pac-12 offensive freshman of the year. Was a really good player. From everything I've read, sounded like he was extremely well liked in that locker room. Just absolutely horrible, Teddy. I don't know what else to say, man. That's just so awful.
Yeah, it's horribly dangerous and horribly sad, and a reminder that guns are incredibly dangerous no matter how comfortable you feel like you are or the people you're around are with them. I don't know. I feel horrible for the young guy and his family and his teammates, and it's just got to be brutal to go through something like that. Such a young guy with such a promising future in front of him. Horrible.
Yeah, and you add that on top of what those kids have been through to play this year, Right. And
Yeah.
I know they're not comparable, right? But it hasn't been easy.
It's a bad end of the season. It's a terrible end of the
I
season.
mean, there couldn't be a worse end. So thoughts and prayers to the Jordan family and to everyone in that Utah football program. Just absolutely brutal. Okay, North Carolina running back Javonte Williams is opting out. Your favorite phrase, Teddy. He is
Yes.
opting out of the bowl game. He probably watched a little bit of that Texas A&M defense, and he was like, "You know what? Nah, I'm good. I'm good. I'll let Michael Carter carry the load for this one." So, really talented player. Be interesting to see where he ends up getting drafted. You know, running backs aren't valued the way they used to, but
Yep.
kid can play.
Yeah, he can. He's a good player. In the running back situation, I mean, it wasn't very long ago that you'd see 4, 5 maybe running backs in the first round, one of the more coveted positions on a football team. And now it's almost like, there's plenty of good running backs. We'll find someone. Quarterback, wide receivers, pass catchers, guys that can get to the quarterback and cover. So it is fascinating. And running back is one of those weird positions where, like, if we're to try and figure out what Ramondre Stevenson's going to do for next year, is he going to go pro or is he going to come back? I mean, is there really a whole heck of a lot to gain for him if he was to come back and play a full season, have a 13 or 1400 yard year? I mean, does that really change a whole much in the grand scheme of things other than putting a lot of mileage on him? It's hard to say.
Yeah, that is a difficult question. We'll see. We'll see. Derek King announced that he will return next year for Miami. Obviously, very good news for Manny Diaz in that program, but we'll talk a little more about that when we wet the beak with the Cheez-It Bowl, right? Because
Yes, can't
Miami
wait.
going to be playing Oklahoma State in that one. And then, unfortunately, the Music City Bowl between Missouri and Iowa has been canceled because Missouri's got the Rona. I think that game was supposed to be Wednesday, so not going to happen there in Nashville. That would suck. That would suck. Like, you do all this stuff to get ready for a bowl game, and then all of a sudden it's gone.
You still get your bowl gift? That's the most important question here.
That is the most important. But if the game's on Wednesday, nah. I was trying to think if they had to. Do you think they had to isolate from their families for Christmas? I know OU didn't do it, but I know
sound like they did. I mean,
no, I know
I
Iowa talked about doing it. So that's like, if those kids did and then they didn't even get to play the game, I'd be so damn pissed at Missouri. You kidding me?
Yeah. I don't know. It's brutal. And part of me wonders, after this season, the way things have gone, are the Missouri and Iowa players happy?
Just, they're like,
because there's a part of you that's like, show up, I'm going to grind, I'm going to give it my best every day, every practice, in the game. And then whenever the game is like called, just quietly, there's a little voice in your head that says, yes.
I definitely think it's probably a different reaction this year than it would be normally.
Sure. Yeah. Because, I mean, everyone wants to go hang out in the Music City for an extended amount of time.
Well, they were going to hit up Broadway with all the bachelorette parties, man. That's what they were going to do. They were going to have a good old time in Nashville. No, they're going to be quarantined in their hotel room.
I mean, whenever you're in Iowa City and Columbia, Missouri, I think anything like at that point would be like the greatest vacation ever.
That's not a bad point. It's not a bad point. Well, game's not getting played, so it doesn't matter. Okay, Ted, let's move on to our segments. Let's start with our winners and losers of the weekend. And Teddy's winners and losers are brought to you by Advanced Weight Loss Clinic of Sand Springs, who just signed on for 6 more months of sponsorship.
Yes.
Let's go. Thank you, Advanced Weight Loss Clinic of Sand Springs. They'll help you execute a realistic and achievable weight. See, they sign up and I mess up the read. I mean,
That's what you get for your money, man. That's awesome.
they'll help you execute a realistic and achievable weight loss plan designed for you and only you. They've got all kinds of treatments for men and women. They're licensed and trained experts combine diet and exercise with hormone therapies to maximize your results. If you're struggling with low libido or low energy, Advanced Weight Loss Clinic at Sand Springs can help with that too. They also offer Botox and fillers. To get on the path to losing weight, call 918-241-LOSE or visit their Facebook page. If you mention the podcast, you will get a free fat burner injection. Okay, Ted, who do you have as your winner of the weekend?
Well, I would say the Chiefs, since they clinched that home field advantage throughout the playoffs, which is pretty big as they kind of have a record-setting day. I could say maybe the Jets for a big win over the wide receiverless Baker Mayfield, the Browns. How about that? How's that to wake up to? All of your wide receivers are going to be gone, Gabe.
God.
Can you imagine that? Just play a bunch of scout team guys.
Not only that, and then he has the fumble at the end on the QB sneak, and it's just like,
well, you know what? What's crazy is the fumble on the QB sneak against the Titans almost cost them too. That's nuts.
Oh yeah. Not a great day. Not a great day for our man Baker, right? Probably a stressful Sunday.
I could have gone with all of, a bunch of different football situations, but I decided to go with the little kids out there because I got to tell you, Gabe, and you'll find this out soon, man. Sleeping in on Christmas used to be something that I really cherished. Okay. But now the pitter patter of the feet at like 7:30 in the morning and, busting out there to see all the gifts that Santa Claus brought. It's just, Gabe, it reminds you of what being a parent is all about. Christmas is the greatest reminder ever. Okay. So to me, the winner, the little kids out there on Christmas, making us all happy.
So it kind of sounds like the parents are the winners actually, because they get the joy of the kids.
I mean, I guess we're all winners.
Everyone's winning on Christmas is the best, man. Like, I don't understand. I know the holidays can be stressful, but I don't understand people that don't love Christmas. Like, what's wrong with those people?
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, there was a time, whenever kids are younger, most of their gifts require a whole bunch of like instruction manuals and Allen wrenches and
assembly required.
Yes. Okay. But we're starting to move past that phase a little bit, and it's making it a little bit more enjoyable. But I had to mention it. My son got a go-kart, Gabe. How about that?
Ooh, like a legit go-kart?
Well, it's a Segway. It's called a 9-bot, a Segway 9-bot, which is like one of those hover things, but it's got this deal that turns it into a go-kart. It's pretty sweet.
That sounds badass.
It goes like 20 miles an hour and has like a 20-mile range. It's crazy. It's pretty impressive. So
let's go.
It beats the things that I used to get when I was a kid by a million miles.
Yeah.
But good for him.
All right, Ted, who do you have as your loser of the weekend?
Not a very good Christmas present, but Dwayne Haskins. I mean, first thing is there's pictures pop up at the strip club, no mask. And it's just been one of those, I guess not necessarily a roller coaster ride, just a horrible ride for Dwayne Haskins. And I didn't see it from this kid. Like, it just seems like it's been a disaster. And you heard the Rex Ryan rant about Haskins, and, maybe you would expect this from someone that goes to like a leaderless organization, but he's had Alex Smith there, who's been in the NFL for a long time, is coming back from, 20 surgeries, almost died because of his injury. I mean, got a great leader right there in the room, but just been a disaster for Haskins in Washington. And the reports are they're going to be moving on without him in the future. And with the tenure he's had there, I don't know that there's going to be a whole bunch of teams just piling up to bring him on board.
Did you hear what Ryan Leaf said about it?
No.
Yeah, obviously Ryan Leaf had his demons, right? You know, the
Still does.
It still does, right? But he said it was when he was looking at what Dwayne Haskins is doing right now. He said it was like looking in a mirror.
Oof.
I was like,
Well,
oh God.
Maybe maybe there's a chance that someone catching it early on, like a Ryan Leaf saying something like that, or somebody reaching out can help it out. But it is not a good situation right there for Haskins in Washington, and he's going to have a hard time sticking around the NFL.
Yeah. He also dodged his media availability after the game in a shocking development.
I mean, he'll be fined, I'm sure, but maybe a good decision there.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much this guy likes football at this point. We'll see. All right, Ted, my winners and losers are brought to you by Sound Advice. A lot of us are watching our favorite football teams from home this year, which is why you need to get ready for game day with a home theater system from our friends at Sound Advice. Sound Advice can customize your home entertainment system indoors or outdoors. Sound Advice did the Wi-Fi network and all the audio visual at my new house, and it is awesome. They hide all the wires and cable boxes so it looks great, and I can control every TV in my house from my phone, and my internet has been flawless. For the best home theater systems in the Oklahoma City area, call Sound Advice at 405-549-3880 or visit soundadviceokc.com. Okay, I am just having like a very large spit buildup in my mouth during the ad reads. This is Teddy. You know what? Sometimes adversity strikes. It's okay. We'll get through it. I got this.
Get a spittoon.
I'll get right on that. Okay. A winner of the weekend. Thought about going with that guy. Did you see this? The guy in Kentucky that went viral because he was clearing the snow off of his driveway with that flamethrower. Did you see that?
I didn't, but I've got to look it up. Don't you love America? I mean, so inventive.
He's got a beer. He's got a hat. He's got, it's one of the best videos ever. You got to find it. But my winner of the weekend, it's got to be the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? They clinched the number 1 pick in the NFL draft with the Jets beating the Browns. And once again, what a bizarre finish to that Jets-Browns game. Not good for Baker Mayfield.
Can you explain something to me? If you've got the lead in a football game, okay, and you've got decent field position, you just got a first down on a illegal contact, you're the Jets, you've got the ball. There's about 4.5 minutes left in the game. On first down, you run it and get 5 yards. Why in the hell are you throwing it on second down? And then third down, 2 incomplete passes.
Do you want the real answer?
Yes. They're trying to lose.
No. Adam Gase is the coach.
What?
He's awful.
I was like,
he's awful.
I don't understand that. I have no idea why. Anyone who's ever watched any amount of football at all, when you've got the lead, you're up by a touchdown.
The other team doesn't have any wide receivers.
4 points at that point. Yeah. What are you doing? Run the football, man. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But somehow they won the game.
Yeah, but Jacksonville's the big winner in all of it because they're going to get Trevor Lawrence. That's huge for that city. That's huge for that franchise. And it'll be interesting to see who they hire as the next head coach. I think Eric Bieniemy makes a lot of sense. Maybe a guy like Joe Brady because his name seems to be coming up a lot. Or maybe even a guy like Urban Meyer because Adam Schefter, he said multiple NFL teams are interested in him. And I don't know if Urban Meyer would want to live in Jacksonville, but he's lived in Florida before, had a pretty good run there. I don't know, but the Jaguars got to be feeling good, Ted.
Hey, I'll tell you, if you're a coach and you've been thinking about the NFL, who your franchise quarterback is going to be, I mean, it makes all the difference in the world. I mean, who really cares where you're at if you've got a terrible quarterback, right? And no chance of like being in the middle, like mediocrity is the worst because it's hard to find those quarterbacks, even though like a lot of good NFL quarterbacks are not taken with the number one overall pick. But Trevor Lawrence makes a job look a whole heck of a lot better. And I got to tell you, Jacksonville, while not the greatest city in Florida, is a whole heck of a lot better than going to the Jets, in my opinion.
Yeah. I've never been to Jacksonville, or maybe I have. Have
It's
I?
not bad. There's some pretty good beaches on the south side of Jacksonville. It's not far from Orlando. I mean, it's a pretty good area.
Nice.
Cooler winters are quite a bit cooler. You're way up right by the Georgia line, so it's completely different than South Florida, but it's still really nice and for most of the year.
Well, I assume Trevor Lawrence has already started looking at homes there.
I mean, and it's fairly close to like his main fan base too, which is he's in that whole area of the country, so it's a perfect fit.
Yeah, they're going to sell a lot of Trevor Lawrence jerseys. That's why they're my winner of the weekend. Now, my loser of the weekend, thought about going with Hugh Freeze because of that whole fiasco at the end of the Liberty Coastal game, but I'm going to give him a break because number one, that running back wears goggles underneath his helmet, and that's kind of badass. And then number two, they did end up winning the football game. So I'm going to leave Hugh Freeze alone. Also thought about going with the Clippers because, oh my God, they were down 50 points at halftime to the Mavericks. I know
NBA
Kawhi
record,
did
right?
No Kawhi. Yeah, NBA record. No Kawhi. I don't care. Down 50, Ted. 50.
That's
I saw
insane.
when it was happening, I saw Pandemic P trending on Twitter. Pandemic P. I was like,
I mean, I got to tell you, I feel bad for him that his career has been not very good since he mentioned that playoff P. And the funniest thing about it is Carmelo Anthony knew it as soon as it came out of his mouth. He said, "Oh, playoff P, you're never going to hear the end of that one." And man, he hasn't.
It's hard to say he hasn't been successful when he just signed like a $250
That's
million
true. That's
extension,
true.
but still, it's still
Success
funny.
comes in different forms, I guess.
Indeed. Now, my loser of the weekend, though, it's got to be some of these guys on the Texans, right? It's specifically the Texans defense, because now it was great seeing Samaje Perine run wild on the Texans. It was awesome watching him score touchdowns. It was a good reminder that guy's still a player. But the JJ Watt rant that everyone is talking about, that didn't come from nowhere. That didn't just pop up out of nowhere. The rant was really cool. He's talking about how much the game means to him, how much it means to fans still, how, players, you get paid a ton of money to do a job, to play for the fans, all these things. Like it was really cool, but there's, you know how that works, Teddy. And JJ Watt, he was once the best defensive player in the league. He's not anymore, but what he says still carries a lot of weight. He was talking to some guys in that locker room with that rant. He was talking to some guys on that defense with that rant. And that's why the guys in that locker room and on that defense that heard that and said, I think he's talking about me. That has to be a low point, right? When you have that moment of realization where a guy is, saying all this stuff and then is calling you out just for not playing with effort, not doing what you're supposed to do. And it kind of makes you
meetings, not getting your lifts.
Yeah.
I mean, those are specific things that he's talking about.
Like I said, it wasn't an accident, right? The things he's bringing up. So I thought the rant was awesome, but I know there's some players that he was directing that at. And that's got to be a really shitty feeling for those guys, especially now that it is being circulated everywhere, because the guys in that locker room, they know who JJ Watt's talking about with that. They know. I I mean, the guys in that locker room know. So those are my losers of the weekend, man. The guys that are hearing that going, "Oh yeah, that's about me," because that they probably feel terrible and they should.
They should. I'll tell you what's crazy. You know, I've been on a team where the coach was fired mid-season. I was with the Detroit Lions whenever Steve Mariucci was fired. And instantly, the first thing you think of is, oh my God, the coach that drafted me has been fired. What's going to happen now? And if that doesn't make you hyper focused, if you weren't already on doing all the things that you're supposed to, I don't know what else can. I mean, not only was the head coach fired there at Houston, but he was also the GM. So you're going to have a new coach, new GM in there. And I got news for you guys that are missing meetings and lifts and not playing well. They're going to bring in their own guys, right? Especially if I say, okay, well, tell us about this player. He misses X amount of meetings, late to meetings, doesn't go to lifts, film doesn't correlate. I mean, you would think that in a situation like that, everyone would crank it up a notch, but we'll find out sooner or later the hard way, I guess.
Yeah. By the way, JJ Watt's gotten a lot more likable over the last couple of years. Am I crazy? Now he's dealt with all the injuries, all the surgeries. I feel like he's become less douchey. I think I like JJ Watt now. Am I crazy? Maybe it's just the rant. Maybe because this is so fresh. That was an awesome
crazy.
speech.
He's not less douchey. He still comes off as a massive tryhard at times, and but he has done some good things. All the charity money he raised in Houston, you can't
Hurricane
knock
relief
that.
stuff. That was awesome. Yeah, I like JJ Watt now, I think. Weird.
He's done some good things, but he still comes under blocks like a you-know-what, hangs out those backers on the back end.
Stay in your gap, JJ. Stay in your gap. All right, Ted, let's move on to Wet the Beak, and that's brought to you by Tim Hughes Custom Homes. Are you looking to build your dream home? If so, Tim Hughes is the man you're looking for. Tim Hughes Custom Homes is a one-stop shop for all your home building needs. He can find you a lot. He can find you an architect. He'll find you financing. And of course, he can build your dream home exactly the way you want it. Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, Tim found my wife and me a lot. He found us an architect and built our new house. Tim and his team were so easy to work with. He is still helping us when we have questions about things around the house. He's also built several office buildings. So if your business is looking to build a custom office, Tim Hughes is your man. You can see Tim's custom builds throughout Gaillardia, Nichols Hills, Oak Tree, Stone Mill, and Rose Creek. It is a great time to build the house of your dreams. For more information and to see Tim's spectacular work, visit his Instagram page at Tim Hughes Custom Homes or visit timhughescustomhomes.com. Okay, we're going to wet the beak with the Cheez-It Bowl. Everyone knows that this game gets weird. That is what the Cheez-It Bowl is known for. And Oklahoma State going to be taking on the Miami Hurricanes in the Cheez-It Bowl Tuesday, 4:30 p.m. Central, of course, God's time. Now, a fun fact about this game, I believe this is the only bowl game outside of New Year's Six that features two ranked teams, right? When you talk about the college football playoff rankings. And I really have no idea what to expect from this football game. Teddy, let's check in with the opt-out tracker, your favorite tracking device, I assume. No Chuba Hubbard for Oklahoma State. Jelani Woods, not an opt-out, but entered the portal, which was a little interesting. Don't think we'll see LD Brown in this one, or at least I don't feel like I've heard anything about him. Miami did have two stud defensive ends, Jalen Phillips and Quincy Roche, opt out for this game, which sucks because they're really fun to watch. And they're also
Where are they getting all these defensive ends? Who was the kid that opted out before the year?
Rousseau. He's going to be like a top, 10, 15 pick.
Yeah.
Well, remember the Phillips kid was at UCLA when OU went and played him.
I mean, unbelievable. It's amazing how good the talent still is coming through Miami, even though this is the best season they've had in I don't know how long. So
yeah, but
nuts.
we talked about it earlier. Derek King announces he's coming back next season. So, of course, he
That's
is going
big.
to be, huge for that program. He is going to be playing in this game. And when you look at it, Ted, it seems like Oklahoma State undoubtedly has the better defense between these two teams. I'm sure Oklahoma State's bunch defensively, they'll be extremely motivated to slow down Derek King, Cam Harris, Brevin Jordan, that stud tight end that they've got. But I think it'll be interesting to see what version of Miami's defense shows up in this football game, because I really don't think they're as bad as they looked against North Carolina when they just got murdered on the field in that game. But I do think Oklahoma State can score some points. But if I had to put money on it, Oklahoma State's a 2.5-point favorite. I would go ahead and lay the 2.5. And it's for one reason only, Ted. It's not because I have faith in Spencer Sanders. It's because Mike Gundy has been pretty good in bowl games. He's 9-5 in bowl games. In Miami, this is hard to believe, but I double checked it. Miami has won one bowl game in the last 15 years.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure that's right. I looked at like two different things.
Okay.
So I was like,
motivation is always a big factor in bowl games. Would you think a Miami team, even though it's been a weird year with their quarterback coming back, what are they, 8-2 right now, a chance to go 9-2? Do you think they're more motivated going into, even though it's not a great bowl, it's the Cheez-It Bowl, do you think they're more motivated to come out with the win?
How dare you call the Cheez-It Bowl not a great bowl? What is wrong with you?
I feel, there's a couple of things around this house that we always have. We always have Pringles. We always have fruit roll-ups. We always have the Uncrustables for my son. I feel like the Cheez-Its have been for too long overlooked in this household, and they need to become a staple. They're fantastic.
My wife has Cheez-Its on hand at all times. So
Really?
the Ikard household is holding down the Cheez-It supply. Don't you worry, bud.
See, my problem with Cheez-Its is it's not really just Cheez-Its. It's pretty much anything I sit down with as a snack. I will go until the entire box is gone.
We are the way we are. I mean, yes.
I may go put it up for 7 minutes and then sit down and then go right back and pick it up again. And like, I've ate 3/4 of it. What's it matter if I eat the rest now? So, but I don't know. I feel like Miami is going to be the more motivated football team, and they've got the better quarterback. I mean, I'm sorry, but I can't trust anything at quarterback from Oklahoma State at all. Derek King has had his ups and downs, but I may be crazy, but I'm taking Miami in the points.
Does it make any difference that Tyler Wallace is reportedly going to play in the game?
No.
Doesn't make any difference for you at all? Because it makes a difference for me, because at the end of the day, Spencer Sanders could just throw it up to him and he'll go make a play.
But they haven't done that this year.
Well, maybe they'll start Ted.
They did it with what's his name? Cornhole or whatever, corn dog they called him. That's all he did is throw it up to Tyler
How dare
Wallace.
you butcher Taylor Cornelius's nickname? What is wrong with you?
That's the year that Tyler Wallace went off, but they don't do that anymore. They don't. I don't know. I could be making a huge mistake here and underselling how good Gundy's been in bowl games, but give me Miami. Give me the better quarterback. Give me the team that's only won one in the last 15 years, and this is maybe their best chance to do it.
Okay. You've got Miami. I've got Oklahoma State.
I mean, they were supposed to be, if you listen to any of the media around here, as easy as they are in Oklahoma State. It's pathetic. But they should have won the Big 12, and they should have been right there on the verge of making a college football playoff. And here they are in the Cheez-It Bowl. So how motivated do you think they're going to be for that football game? I don't know.
We'll see. I'm picking them to win.
I'll bet you a box of Cheez-Its. How about that?
deal. I'll put my faith in Oklahoma State. Why not? What could go wrong? All right, Ted, let's finish up with Keeping It Local, where we highlight what's going on in the great state of Oklahoma. And that's brought to you by Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School. As schools are reopening in the fall, parents want to provide the best possible educational experience and spiritual development for their children. There's no better place for that than Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School. A one-to-one iPad setting makes McGuinness students fully prepared to continue high-level learning from home. A 12-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio guarantees no student is overlooked. In addition to athletic programs and clubs, Bishop McGuinness's college prep curriculum offers 22 AP courses. Financial aid is available. For more information, visit bmchs.org. Okay, so the Thunder finally played a game, and it was weird watching them. I was monitoring Twitter throughout the game, and I came to a realization, Ted, because they go to Charlotte and beat the Hornets despite an epic collapse in the last 2 minutes of that game from the Thunder. Gilgeous-Alexander hits the game winner, and I was excited. I was fired up. This is a team that I love watching. I've invested a lot of time, and all I kept seeing on my timeline was people bitching about them winning. And I understand it. Like, I get it. I know, big picture, like, I get it. But I quickly realized that I cannot openly cheer for them to lose games, Teddy. I just can't. I know losing is what needs to happen for this team, right? Moving forward. I understand small market team. You build through the draft. You want to accumulate picks. Now you want George Hill and Al Horford to play well so that they can get flipped for picks. Like, I understand the big picture, but I just can't openly root for a team that I love. And I love the Thunder. I do. I talk about it all the time, but it just goes against everything I've ever known in sports. I can't do it, man. I tried, but I was sucked right back in game one. I can't cheer for them to lose. I just can't do it. I'm sorry. I'll let the other Thunder fans that can do it handle that. I'm not going to be the guy.
You can't do it. If you cheer for them to lose, there ends up being no point in watching the game because there's no entertainment factor there watching the game. And it's just, it really, it takes the whole point of the whole experience away. I'm totally with you.
Thank you.
Now, if you want to start rooting against the Thunder to win, there's a very easy way to do it. Start betting against them, and you'll be forced to, and you'll even you'll be thrilled when they lose. So that's the only way. If you want to do it, if you really want to do it, just start. And it doesn't even have to be that much money. You just have to start betting against them. That's
are you telling me to start making emotional hedge bets?
That's it. Yes. Yes. You'd be amazed at what just a tiny amount of money will do to your mentality. It'll flip everything.
Now, I want to make it clear. I'm going to be less sad than I normally am when they lose this season, but it's like, I want to see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander expand his game. I like some of the stuff I saw from him the other night. I thought he played stronger with the basketball. I thought he, stayed on balance, finished through contact more. Now, he turned the ball over too much, but and then you got Baisley, who really seems like he's coming along. Dort, like, I'm going to cheer for these guys that are going to be core guys. I'm going to cheer for them to play well. I'll let all you losers cheer for them to lose games. Now, I understand it. It makes most sense to hope they lose games. I get that. I'm just not wired that way. I can't do it. I refuse. I absolutely refuse.
I'm the same way. And you never know, man. Yeah, if there's like a great draft prospect and there's the next generational player that's there and they're so god awful.
You mean like Pokachevsky, with how good he looked the other night? Oh man, at some point just stop shooting the three, bud. I mean, just let's try something else.
What I'm trying to say is you never know where your next great player is going to be drafted. You just never know. It could be the number 1 spot if you're god awful enough to have that, but it could also be the 12 spot or the 10 spot or the 8 spot. You just never know, man. There is no science to it. There's obviously like your LeBron James type of players and your Anthony Davis type of players are going to be those go-to guys at the number 1 spot. But aside from that, man, you just never know.
Yeah. Well, the Thunder play the Jazz on Monday, and I will be cheering for them to win. They're probably going to lose, but I'll be cheering for them to play well and to win the game. And that's that.
You take the Jazz on the money line.
Yeah, I could do that. I could do that. Check that real quick. They're 7.5 point favorite, right? The Jazz are.
Which you won't win anything, but if the Jazz win, but you will. I mean, there'll be a very small amount.
Minus 300. Money line for the Jazz, minus 300. I don't know about that one. I don't know if I like those odds enough, Ted.
And that could really make you hate the Thunder if they were to win the game.
Just drop $1,000 on that game and they win. Oh, yeah, you're right. That would work. I'd be pissed. All right, Ted. Episode 71 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that we will drop late Wednesday, probably early Thursday morning. What we're going to do is we're going to work the Cotton Bowl, right? And then we're going right back to the hotel and we are going to record our Cotton Bowl recap. And we're also going to add on the back end of that, we've got Andy Staples, our buddy from The Athletic. He'll preview the semifinal games. So that's what's coming at you probably early Thursday, the wee hours of the morning.
It'll be very early because my post game goes pretty long, usually 90 minutes after. So we're talking 12:30 off air. So
I'll drink some coffee.
It'll definitely be early Thursday morning for sure.
Yeah. All right. Just a reminder, you can hear Teddy from 2 to 6 on Sports Talk 1400. You can hear me from 3 to 5 on Sirius XM Big 12 Radio, channel 375. Hope you all have a great week. Until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening. And do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.